Welcome to the Insider by DFIN. I'm Dana Barrett, and joining me today is Steve Horowitz. He is the manager of SEC reporting for WTW. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Dana. Thank you for having me today.
It is my pleasure. I'm glad we can spend a few minutes talking about your experience with ActiveDisclosure. But before we get into it, can you just tell me a little bit about your role with WTW?
Sure. I am the manager of SEC reporting. I've been with WTW for 6 years. My primary responsibilities are the preparation and ultimately the filing of our Form 10K and Form 10Qs, along with other SEC filing requirements that come up as necessary throughout the year.
And WTW is a global company, correct?
That's correct, Dana. WTW is a worldwide business services provider, and we have locations in over 140 countries all over the world. And I am based out of Philadelphia.
So as a large public company, I can imagine that your reporting requirements are challenging. So can you talk about how ActiveDisclosure has sort of, filled the need for you?
Well, I think the biggest benefit we've recognized from using the ActiveDisclosure tool is the efficiency with which we're able to complete our reporting and our document preparation in a timely manner. The ActiveDisclosure tool has allowed us to work together in a collaborative environment using applications we have already been very familiar with, such as Excel and Word. And it is really, because of that familiarity, it has really improved the process and has cut valuable time off getting to the finished product. And it provides us with a bit of additional time to review and make sure that everything is presented the way we want it to ultimately be filed.
I was going to ask specifically about the efficiency and the type of problem you were trying to solve in using a solution like ActiveDisclosure. So can you kind of talk about what life was like before ActiveDisclosure, like without the tool and its current capabilities? What were you losing?
Well, previous tools that we used, they weren't compatible with Excel, really any of the Microsoft suite. And so the problem was we had to do a lot of additional tweaking and adjusting to files so that they would present properly in the tool we were using. And with ActiveDisclosure, as I said, with the ability to use Excel, we are more than familiar with its capabilities, and that just allowed for just a more efficient way to produce tables. And if we were ever in a situation where we had to come up with something really quick, if we had a new table we had to add and we were under the gun with, under a deadline, we didn't have to worry about how long it was going to take to put that together. We didn't have to worry about how it was going to render once we added it to the document. We were very confident knowing we were using something we were already familiar with, and the fact that we were also familiar with Word and we were able to produce the document in the similar manner that everybody was familiar with and in the rendering everybody's familiar with for reading it. It just made it a lot easier, and it just gave us more confidence knowing that we were producing something that was going to have very minimal issues.
Yeah, I think we've all reached a place in our lives with technology where one of the key things that really matters in terms of a technology's ability to help us is how it integrates with the things we already use. And so that
right.
That really speaks to how well ActiveDisclosure has done on that front. But talk a little bit about, if you will, the kind of time, like put us in that mindset of the days before you had that and you got in one of those moments where it's last minute and you're trying to get something together and you pull it up in the tool that you have and it's not formatted right. What kind of time to fix something like that were you putting in?
In the days before using ActiveDisclosure, the old tools that we were using, it presented challenges as far as, the stress of not knowing what we were going to see every time we made an update or created a new table. It was difficult to have a lot of confidence that whatever we were producing was immediately going to render itself the way we intended it to. And when you're down to the final few days or even hours before you're ready to file, and you have a change, and in the world of SEC reporting and financial reporting, you have to always account for changes. You have to always expect there will be issues some point in the process. Of course, you hope they don't occur right at the end of the process, but using the old tools that we had, it just made it, you didn't have a lot of faith that if you had to make a change, you could do it in a short period of time. You had to hope that you had more time at that point in the process.
You had to do the old fingers crossed, hope for the best kind of thing.
Exactly. It was really a, close your eyes and pray.
Mm-hmm. It's sometimes when you talk about how a product has kind of helped your team and helped your workflow and all that, some of it is really just in as a stress reliever. I mean, it sounds like that got rid of a large part of the stress for you guys in getting these documents done and ready to go by deadline.
It did. Having that familiarity with the applications, the Excel and the Word, it definitely was a stress reducer. And we've certainly continued to have the unexpected events come up late in the game. We certainly can't control when those things happen, but we are in a much better place as far as keeping our cool and staying collected, knowing that it will be a relatively quick adjustment and we won't miss a beat.
I love that. Well, we were talking about the idea that, how well systems integrate is a huge part of what makes a product work for us in general. But I think the other big part of that, I know for me, is the company that I'm working with and the kind of service I'm getting from human beings who know what they're doing and who are able to help. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with ActiveDisclosure and with the DFIN team and sort of supporting you as you go through your filings and your reporting?
Well, as far as the DFIN team is concerned, I think that's one of the big benefits of using DFIN's ActiveDisclosure, because we have the confidence that anytime we have questions or issues, we can call a help desk, we can send an email, and we will get an immediate response. I've certainly had my share of opportunities, I'll say, to reach out to the ActiveDisclosure help desk for help with anything from formatting to how to find the right punctuation for a disclosure, and they've been very helpful. They will download a copy of the document we're currently working on, and they will be on screen with me, showing me where I should go, where I look, and how to incorporate it. And that's one of the big, as I said, it's one of the big benefits, knowing that at any time I'm working on these documents, and that includes later in the evening, I know that I can get somebody on the other end of that phone and know that I'm in good hands.
Well, we've all been there with the late nights trying to get work done, especially in modern times when we're at home.
It comes with the territory in my line of work. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we kind of went backwards there a little bit in the sense that we're talking about how the team at DFIN has helped you sort of ongoing. But can you talk a little bit about the effort it took to get your team up to speed on the ActiveDisclosure product?
We'd used a previous version of ActiveDisclosure, so I'd already had some familiarity with how it worked overall. So when it came time to upgrade to the new application, of course, there's always trepidation anytime you're making a change and you've gotten more than familiar with the old way. But I knew myself and my team felt confident that we would be able to be brought up to speed in a rather efficient manner. When we first met with our designated onboard person who was tasked with getting our new application off the ground, they were able to, establish the initial document that we were working on, which happened to be the 10K, which is the biggest document we file all year, which it's a daunting thing when the first document you're going to be creating with a new version of a tool is the 10K. But we were brought up to speed very quickly. We were given a demonstration of all of the key functions and how to navigate the document, how to add and delete. And we saw tremendous benefit from the new tool, of course. But anytime we had to talk to somebody from DFIN staff to ask questions, they were very helpful in answering some of those key questions. So we were able to begin using the tool with no problem. We got through our 10K with time to spare, and we felt really good at the end of the process. We were talking about perhaps delaying the implementation of it until we were into a smaller document, so we didn't have those issues. But I actually said to my team, I think we're in good hands. I think we can put our faith in the DFIN team. Let's get the big one out of the way first, and everything will be easier by comparison. And I was right.
What happened? Gotta love it when you're right.
Hey, I like that every now and then.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about ongoing improvements to the product, because we all know if you get a piece of software, things over time, people make suggestions and maybe you don't get heard. And so how has DFIN been and the ActiveDisclosure team been about sort of responding to requests you have as a customer for functionality you'd like to see or features you'd like to see improved?
Well, as far as responses for improvements to the functionality, in the very beginning, after using the tool for a couple of filings, that's when you begin to get more familiar with what you would like the tool to provide you. And it's only after those first couple of times through that you start to think, oh, I wish the tool would do this. I wish it would feature that. And I would have, after the end of each of the filing periods, I would talk to people from DFIN and I would say, are you planning to improve the spell check capability or provide the spell check capability? Are you planning to improve the way certain punctuation renders in the document? Are you making improvements to the functionality as far as what you can do to manipulate tables a little easier? And they took my suggestions seriously. They weren't just saying, yeah, we get that all the time, we're working on it. They told me where their engineers were in the process of making these improvements. They had heard from other clients besides me, of course, and they were hearing similar suggestions, but they took them seriously. And over the last couple of years, since we've initially began using the tool, we've seen vast improvements in its functionality since that very first filing.
So once you got started using ActiveDisclosure, you obviously started using it to fill certain needs you knew you had. Have you found other things you were able to use the tool for?
Well, after we got more familiar with it, after I got more familiar with it, and we filed our 10K and then a few 10Qs, I am also responsible for preparing WTW's employee benefit plan financials that we need to file on an annual basis as well. And so I felt, well, even though that these are not filed with the SEC, they certainly can be prepared using ActiveDisclosure. And so previously, those financial statements were prepared by hand and done via Word. And once I looked into the possibility of putting them on the tool, it certainly made my life a lot easier, already knowing the capabilities the tool had, and I was able to quickly implement those respective financial statements as part of the tool. And I have worked with other people in the finance group who were helping me to review certain aspects of the 10K and 10Q. And I was showing them ActiveDisclosure because I was showing them where certain things were kept. And they were impressed enough with the tool that they wanted to use it for their own interim reporting. And so now we've got other people in the finance group that previously had no use for ActiveDisclosure now singing its praises as well. And I think that's great that we've got more people getting familiar with it and using it, and it's saving a world of time for them because of the benefits that ActiveDisclosure provides.
Yeah, that's a great story. When you find those unexpected places in your business where you can sort of make use of something that's already working for you. I mean, what could be better? I mean, that's phenomenal to hear.
Right.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to add about your experience with ActiveDisclosure that you feel like our listeners would like to know?
Well, I just want to again emphasize how simple it is to incorporate Excel and Word into the tool. I mean, you asked earlier about the functionality improvements, and one of the things that I have definitely noticed and certainly have appreciated is more functionality that mimics Word, which of course, if most people are familiar with Word's capabilities, they certainly want to see that in the tool. And I've noticed over the last 2 years since we began using it, that it mimics Word more and more. And I think that's great. And I think that's just only going to make it easier to use. But for most clients out there, for most potential clients looking for a tool that will incorporate applications you most likely are already familiar with, this is the tool you want to consider.
Steve, thank you so much for sharing your experience with ActiveDisclosure with us. I think it's really, really helpful for people to understand how it's being used kind of in the real world. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Dana.
This has been the Insider by DFIN. We'll see you next time.